The clock on the wall struck 5. I smiled. It was finally time to leave the office. I grabbed my bag and rushed out the door. My bicycle was waiting for me. It was a shiny red bike, my favorite bike. I hopped on and started to pedal. The wind felt good on my face. The sun was still bright in the sky. It was a perfect summer evening for a ride. I was heading to the tennis club. I couldn't wait to play. I pedaled faster and faster, feeling happy and free. The city streets were busy with cars and people. Riding my bike always made me feel like a kid again. I zipped past the park. I saw children playing on the swings. I waved at them, but they didn't see me. I was just a blur of red and silver. The tennis club was on the other side of town. It was a long ride, but I didn't mind at all. The exercise felt great after sitting at a desk all day. I imagined the fun I would have at the club. I would play a few games of tennis with my friend Mark. Maybe we would get some snacks from the clubhouse afterward. It was going to be a great night. Finally, I saw the big sign for the club, tennis club. I turned into the long driveway. The place was already buzzing with people. I could hear the pop, pop, pop of tennis balls being hit back and forth. I found a good spot to lock up my bike. I made sure it was secure. I didn't want anyone to take my favorite bike. I patted the seat one last time before heading inside. Mark was already there, waiting for me on the court. He waved a friendly hello. I was ready for an evening of fun and games. The courts were bright green, the white lines were freshly painted. Mark and I started to play. We hit the ball back and forth. It was a good game. We were evenly matched. We laughed and joked between points. We played another game, and then another. We didn't want the night to end. We were having too much fun. We played until the big lights around the court switched on, flooding the green space with a bright artificial glow. The world outside the court disappeared into darkness. We played until we were both exhausted. My arms and legs ached, but it was a good kind of ache. We went inside the clubhouse for a cold drink. We sat and talked for a long time. We talked about work and tennis and movies. We didn't notice how late it was getting. When I finally looked at the clock, I was shocked. It was almost midnight. I have to get home, I said to Mark. We said our goodbyes. I walked back outside to get my bike. The air was much cooler now. The friendly daytime sounds were gone. The night was quiet. I unlocked my bike and got ready to ride. The thought of the long ride home made me feel tired. The main roads would take me almost an hour. I looked over toward the edge of the club's property. There was a small dark path. It led into the woods, the forest path. It was a shortcut. I knew it would cut my travel time in half, but it was also very, very dark. No streetlights, no houses, just trees. Everyone said to avoid it at night. Still, I was so tired. I just wanted to be in my bed. I stood there for a minute thinking, should I take the long way, the safe way, or should I take the shortcut, the quick way? I looked down the main road. It seemed so long and endless. Then I looked at the forest path. It was dark and a little scary, but it would get me home so much faster. I made my decision. I would be brave. It was just a path, just a bunch of trees. What could possibly happen? I turned my bike's small front light on. It cut a tiny beam into the deep darkness. I took a deep breath and started to pedal toward the forest. The moment my tires hit the dirt path, the air grew still. The sounds of the distant city faded away completely. All I could hear was the crunching of leaves under my wheels, and the sound of my own breathing. The trees were tall and thick. Their branches looked like long, bony fingers reaching down for me. The small light on my bike didn't help much. It only showed me a few feet of the path ahead. Everything else was pitch black. A shiver went down my spine. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. I pedaled faster. I wanted to get out of the woods as quickly as possible. The path was bumpy. Roots from the old trees stuck out of the ground. I had to be careful not to fall. The forest was so quiet. It was an eerie, unnatural quiet. Then I felt it. A strange change. The bike suddenly felt heavier. It was harder to pedal. It felt like I was riding uphill, but the path was flat. I pushed down on the pedals with all my strength. Why was it so difficult? It felt like someone had added a heavy weight to the back of my bike. I tried to ignore the feeling. It's just my imagination, I told myself. I'm just tired from playing tennis. But the feeling wouldn't go away. In fact, it grew stronger. The bike felt sluggish and slow. It felt like something was holding it back. I glanced over my shoulder, but I couldn't see anything in the dark. There was only the blackness of the forest behind me, but I could feel it, a presence. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. I was not alone on this path. Something was with me. Then I felt a definite weight press down on the luggage rack behind my seat. It was a sudden heavy pressure. The bike wobbled. I almost lost my balance. My heart started to pound in my chest like a drum. It felt like someone had just sat down on the back of my bike. Someone or something. I was too scared to turn around. I kept my eyes locked on the tiny patch of light in front of me. I could almost feel cold breath on the back of my neck. I started to pedal like my life depended on it, my legs burning with effort and fear. I suddenly remembered the local legend. The story the old-timers told. They said a woman had been in an accident on this very path many years ago. She was riding on the back of a bicycle late at night. The story said her ghost still waited in the woods. She waited for a lone rider. She would hop onto the back of their bike for a ride home, a ride she never got to finish. They said you could feel her presence, a sudden weight, a cold chill. They said she would leave her mark on anyone who gave her a ride. I was terrified. The legend was real, and she was riding with me. I don't know how I made it out of the forest. I just closed my eyes and pedaled. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Finally, I saw a light ahead, a street light. I burst out of the woods and onto the paved road of my neighborhood. The bike suddenly felt light again. The heaviness was gone. I risked a quick look behind me. I didn't stop pedaling until I was at my front door. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking. I threw the bike in the garage and ran inside, locking the door behind me. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. My heart was still racing. I couldn't stop shaking. Was it real, or did I just imagine the whole thing? Was it just the spooky forest playing tricks on my tired mind? I tried to calm down. I told myself it was just the legend, just a silly ghost story that had gotten into my head. I walked through my quiet house, turning on every single light. I didn't want to be in the dark. I didn't sleep much that night. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every shadow looked like a figure standing in the corner. The next morning, the sun streamed through my window. Everything seemed normal again. I sat on my bed and felt a bit of pain on my shoulder. As I took off my shirt, I glanced in the mirror. And then I froze. My blood ran cold. There on my back was a long, thin scratch. It was red and angry, stretching from my shoulder down toward my spine. It looked like a long fingernail had dragged across my skin. I had not fallen. I had not been scratched. I stared at the mark in the mirror. I knew exactly what it was. It was her mark. The mark of the ghost from the forest path. She had been there. She had been on my bike. It was not my imagination. It was real. The proof was right there, scratched into my skin. I knew one thing for sure, but I would never, ever take the forest path again. Not even in the daytime. Some shortcuts are not worth taking.